Aside from us here at The Rebel, just about the only other media outlet asking the really tough questions about the mass shooting on Toronto's Danforth Avenue last month is the Toronto Sun, specifically Joe Warmington, Anthony Furey, Candice Malcolm, and Sue-Ann Levy. That being the case, why in the world would the Sun recently run a guest column entitled "The Extremist Group That Cried Wolf," written by someone who is part of something called the Muslim Writers of Canada, someone who completely rejects that the gunman, Faisal Hussein, had any links to terrorism? Why indeed? So writer Jari Kudrat recently had a column published in the Toronto Sun that echoed what, well, everybody else in the mainstream media was saying, namely, it's folly to think there could be any ISIS involvement regarding the most recent Toronto mass shooting. Apparently, we can say that Hussein did a terrible thing, but we cannot, alas, call it an act of terror. Here's how the column begins, quote, "We all know the story, the shepherd boy watching over village sheep who'd cry, 'Wolf, wolf, wolf,' and cause panic in the village. Yet when the villagers would arrive, there would be no wolf. We're seeing the exact same phenomena by extremist groups today, but with a totally different agenda," end quote. Kudrat then goes on to note, quote, "that one pivotal component of the ISIS recruitment strategy is proliferation of misinformation and constant claims of attacks they have nothing to do with. This allows them to do two things. First, it creates division and disorder among citizens, increasing hatred toward Muslims, which then leads to backlash and further propels hate. Second, it keeps ISIS relevant and top of mind for distressed, mentally disturbed, and disenfranchised youth, making it easier to influence them and get in contact as part of the terror group's recruitment strategy," end quote. He then goes on to applaud the mainstream media who, par for the course, quickly dismissed the ISIS claim of responsibility for this attack. But the question arises, does anyone truly know for certain whether or not ISIS had any involvement? I would suggest that the jury is still out on this one. As well, why is it that mental illness and terrorism must be mutually exclusive? Can it not be that the gunman was both mentally ill and was attracted to Islamic terrorism organizations, perhaps even because of his mental illness? I'm not stating this as a tried and true fact here, folks. Rather, I'm just raising this as a possibility. Yet it would seem that even making this possibility part of the discussion is, culturally insensitive. Kudrat also notes how he personally visited the makeshift memorial on Danforth Avenue, brandishing a "love for all, hate for none" sign, and that, according to his math, 99% of people quietly thanked him for his contribution in terms of keeping Toronto's whiz-bang multicultural mosaic vibe going. He does note there was, quote, "one individual creating a scene, causing ruckus and spurring Islamophobia. He was later escorted out by police. He thought it was an Islamic attack and that Hussein was inspired by Islamic ideologies," end quote. So let me get this straight. Merely by speculating that a Muslim gunman might have had links to Islamic terror organizations makes somebody in the public square guilty of Islamophobia, and that person must be removed by the local constabulary for committing the heinous crime known as insensitivity. Yet this seems to be the narrative one must embrace today, regardless of the sheer volume of terrorism that continues to be committed in the name of Allah the world over. Indeed, I think back to our Man on the Street interview that we did on the Danforth the same day CBS was reporting that Hussein had allegedly visited ISIS websites and had declared his allegiance to the Islamic State. We asked people what they thought about this breaking news, and most people weren't buying the official explanation that Hussein's murderous mayhem had absolutely nothing to do with terrorism. And then this person, who incredibly happens to be a high school teacher, decided to inject herself into the conversation. Check out her pithy prose.
Can you please not descend into racist things right now? Please don't.
I'm sorry, what did I say that was racist?
Don't come here. The Rebel, really? You don't need to be here right now. This is our community.
Folks, did I say anything that was racist?
Yes,
or,
you asked if the man.
well, I'm actually.
You asked if the shooter had visited ISIS websites. That is not.
No,
okay.
I said CBS in the U.S.
This is not okay.
I said CBS in the U.S. is reporting that.
Okay. The rebel is not okay. That does not represent Canadian values.
Why are you so mad, ma'am? This is a news report that broke today.
Can I call you back? This is not what we're about. I'm sorry. This is not what Canada is about. Canada is not about racism.
Yeah, right off the bat, this leftist caricature employs tactic number one of the progressives, the racism card. But how is a gunman having links to ISIS racist? ISIS is not a race. Islam is not a race. In fact, as long as you're willing to strap on a suicide bomb and carry out some carnage, ISIS will gladly accommodate any recruit. Gotta say this about ISIS, they don't discriminate when it comes to the terrorism business. In the final analysis, going back to Kudrat referencing the boy who cried wolf as a means of dismissing the connection between Muslims murdering people and links to any terror organizations, even Kudrat should know full well that the little shepherd boy in that fable was indeed right on the money on at least one occasion. For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, the Rebel has a new app. Please download that app and take the Rebel with you wherever you go.